First of all, I just want to say thank you for, I was supposed to be here last week, but I was basically in bed. It was ridiculous. I'm a fairly active person, and I managed to throw out my back, and so to the point where I couldn't move, and I'm like, oh, this isn't normal. And so then I'm like, hey, Jay, and then poor Jay, he's expecting me, and he's got like half a day's notice. Hey, I won't be there. And he's like, and I need to prepare a message. And so very challenging, but in the midst of those things when we're weak, God is strong. And that's really what I try to rely on is because I've been having some pretty big health problems, which is funny because I pretend to be a very healthy, active, physically fit person. And then I'm like bombarded by not just my back, I got gut issues, I got all these problems. And I'm like, I'm not one to always go around, well, Satan's just attacking me. I don't blame a lot of things on the devil. I think there's a lot of, there's warfare for sure. There is that exists. But there's also my own personal choices. There's also the normal laws of life, right? So if I'm like, oh, my back is hurting, and then I do martial arts, and then I'm like, I'm not sure if that was Satan that did that or that guy I was fighting, And so there's those things you have to take into consideration as well. But I'm here, and I'm going to persevere, push through, and I'm excited to be here. And so one of the things I was just feeling as I was sitting here talking about Mission Sunday, for us as believers, every day that we walk out of our house, we're walking onto the mission field. We should look at it that way every single day of our life, that God is going to work in us so that he can work through us in whatever we're going to do that day. And if we have that focus, we're all missionaries, right? So sometimes when you have a Mission Sunday, you're focused on a certain thing. So for us, we run a little organization called The Source, and we do a little more than just, with some stuff overseas and then a lot of stuff here in Spokane. And I'm just honored and I feel so blessed to be able to share with you guys, give you guys a little bit of update what the last year's been like. It's been about, I think, 7 months or so since I spoke with you. Jay got me on the radio. I was on the radio with him. And then right after that, I was on The Right Perspective with Tim and Leanna Ben. Not Leanna, Tim and, what's that? Shannon, yeah, just Leanna's the mom. And I know Leanna pretty good, but they put me on the radio. And the fun thing about being on the radio in Spokane and in Washington State is if certain people listen to it, they will get really mad at me. And I contract with these people that would get really mad at me, which is super fun for me because it's kind of like when the dog bites the hand that feeds it, all right? And I'm willing to chew down on that hand if I have to. And so, because there's a lot of things that are wrong with the way our state regulators run things, the way foster care is set up, the way social welfare is set up, and we are in the midst of that fight all the time. And so, so what I want to do is, first I want to just introduce a few people from my team because from my small beginning by myself, we've grown quite large and we're always expanding and always growing bigger. I think at this point, Zay, can you grab my water? Send it up here, please. It's on your right, on the ground. So since the small beginning, we just keep growing and growing. And I was just doing a tally the other day, and we currently have over 70 full-time staff. And that number is going to change pretty quickly as we're making more expansions and we're growing all the time. So that's 70 full-time people. And so sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm just amazed and blown away. And my mom, who works with us, Kathy, if you'll raise your hand, she's back there somewhere. So Kathy is our clinical social worker. She is the most educated person in our organization, and we have to do whatever she says. So, she writes our treatment plans and works with our teams to provide the clinical aspect of treatment for kids who are in high needs care. And so when I look at where we're at now, I think last time I was here, we've actually added a couple more homes in the Spokane community. We decided to switch some of our care because there's a whole group of kids that we were not able to reach. And it's kids that are in the development disabilities category. So kids with high needs, some of them are in wheelchairs, some of them have MS, things like that, just different type of diagnosis, severely disabled kids that are with cognitive problems. So we opened up 2 programs. One is emergency respite. And so what it does is we take children who are in the care of families, and the families just need a respite break. They're taking care of high needs children, maybe they're incontinent or wheelchair bound, and we have the opportunity to serve that family for 30 days and then to help them get additional tools and kind of give them a little bit of time of just hey, take a little break. We got your child. We're going to take good care of them. And so we've been doing that for a while. And all of that sounds like, when you guys just see me, I want you to understand that I don't do any of this stuff anymore, okay? And I want to just introduce a few people in the room that are vital to the ministry of the Source. And so Kathy Hager, I mentioned her. She's my social worker. Here, I think Carrie Ellenwood is here. So Carrie Ellenwood is my HR director. She does more than just that. She does all of our med management. She does a lot of staff stuff, with our people, brings in new hires. Julie Vinson, if you say hi to Julie. She's the brains of the operation, basically. She's the vice president of the Source and really keeps me in line. I have this ability. So you ever see the sayings of like a settler, a pioneer, the trailblazer people? Well, I'm a trailblazer, and if you ever are cutting a new trail through the woods, you tend to make a mess. You're dodging stuff. We have some motorcycle riders in here. They know what that, you're just blazing the trail, right? So you have that person that blazes the trail, makes the mess, but the settlers come and make everything that was just blazed work. And we function together, and we're very necessary for one another to be able to get to a spot where we're making a big impact. Zayra, my wife, she is our, what do you call nowadays? Sorry. She's like our, what's your title, babe? Chief Operations, sorry. Sometimes I mess up on some of the names. So Chief Operations Officer. So as we've expanded and grown, when we were small, we had like 7 or 8 people, I could maintain the culture of that environment very well, right? Because I was with the people every day. But now at 75 staff, and the crazy thing is, a lot of believers, they don't want to work for us. The job can be very, very hard. It's challenging. Like, hey, do you want to come and work with a troubled kid? He's probably going to swing on you on day one and try to knock your teeth out. A lot of people say no to that, right? And so we get different people in there, and Zayra's job is to work with the upper level management to maintain the culture in our environments of work so that we carry on the culture of the Source, which is rooted in James, the book, the chapter of, it's James 1:22, which basically is pure and defiled religion is this, to visit the widow and orphan in their time of distress and keep oneself spotted from the world. And our really the part of us is the orphans and those that are the basic, what some people would consider like throwaway kids because of their behavior problems, their disabilities, things like that, the least of these. And so so Zayra's taken that part over, which allows me as a trailblazer to continue to build, grow new things, and then I pass it off to them, sometimes with a little bit of trembling on their side. I'm like, okay, here's what I'm doing now. And then Julie's like, oh, she's, every time I go overseas, she's like, what crazy adventure am I going to find out on Facebook before I tell her, And then because it always makes, as a pioneer and a trailblazer, you make work for other people, right? You make work for the settlers and the people who are going to run the show for you. And for some reason, we as people who start things don't really see that all the time, all right? And so as a horse like breaks out of a stall and just takes off running, sometimes you need those reins, like, whoa, pull back, make sure, did you think about this, this, and this? And then Julie and Zayra, they really play a significant part in that. And so does Kathy, and so does Carrie. They're all very, very important parts of the Source and our operations. So that's, and I wanted to introduce Charlie. Charlie Bufford has been a good friend of mine, and I'm going to highlight just how we met and what the Lord did through that process. So I think it was like 2014 or 13, somewhere in there. There's this all-city youth gathering for youth pastors, right? It's not youth, it's for the youth pastors. We're all going to get together and talk about the good things the Lord is doing. And it's going to be held at a hangar out at Felds Field. And so me, as a person who's been in youth work, I have never really done a good job at getting my name out there or meeting other people from different churches. All I've done really is go to wherever the kids are and work with them face-to-face individually. Well over 3,000 something kids that I've worked with individually. Not just saying they came to my youth group at one time, but I'm saying that I've intentionally invested in these children. And so while I was doing that, I didn't really make connections with other people in the community. Zion knew about me, different groups knew about me a little bit, but not very much. So I go to this youth gathering of youth pastors, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a good time to collaborate. And so we're there, and when you put, at that point in time, hopefully it's getting better, but we would meet, and we meet on the lowest common denominator, because me, I'm a crazy, charismatic, speaking in tongues extremist, right? And I go there, and then there's a Baptist pastor there, right? It's like, okay, well, now where are we going to meet? Because my doctrine is a little bit different than theirs. I believe in healing. I believe in prophecy, those kind of things. And so we're in this meeting, and it's being run by some people that are pretty prominent youth leaders at the time. And we're going through, and we're just talking about stuff. And Charlie stands up. He's a bold dude, and he stands up, and he's like, really has this message about our need to intercede and pray, like get down on our face before the Lord and pray for the youth of our city. And the crazy thing is, he was shot down, like just full on, like I kid you not, like shot down. I hope you don't mind me sharing this, bro, but all right. But my whole response was, I need to go meet that guy, right? First thing, I need to go meet that guy. So the meeting's over, and I go over and introduce myself to him, and I'm like, that's what we were supposed to do, bro. I agree with you 100%. Fast forward a little bit of time after that meeting, so we had a little conversation there. He and his wife walk into Zion when I was going there at the time, and he's like, hey, do you remember me? And we're just like, oh, yeah. And I was just about to launch the first Source home. That was like 2015, somewhere in there when they started coming to Zion. And I'm about to launch the first youth home. And so I offer him a job, and he has a whole bunch of better jobs that are offered to him in ministry at the time. And I'm offering one. I'm like, I don't have any clue how I'm going to pay you. But all I can tell you, bro, is I'm going to pay you before I pay myself, and we'd love to have you. And he comes in and helps me and just starts working with me. And in the initial years of the Source, without Charlie, I don't know how I would have made it, because I was in over my head a bit. I'm in the trenches. I take 5 fully dysfunctional kids, and I stick them all in a house together thinking it's going to run smooth, right? And so Charlie came in and just helped me a lot. I was doing 85 hours a week back then, and then he self-promoted himself to become my right-hand man, but out of necessity, right? And so he starts taking some of the on-call. He says, you're going to leave Chris alone. No one's calling him tonight. He's got the day off, that kind of thing. And through that, the Lord just started knitting our hearts together. And since that time, he's been to Malawi, I think 4 or 5 times with me, once on his own, and 4 times with me. We have worked tirelessly to build stuff, and then as we've grown, and Julie's been around since the early days, like before, probably 2012, Julie started helping us somewhere in there, working for free, and then she took on all of our CFO roles, right, and she was just doing it for free for a long time. And then she came on full time, I think in 2018 or somewhere in there. So anyway, when you just see me, the team is so much bigger than me. All right, so we're going to get into that. A couple words I want to start off with. And if I jump around a little bit, typically I do pretty good, but I've been under like some serious health attacks recently. I have multiple problems wrong with me. It's kind of funny. So like I got vertigo like super bad for the last month and a half. And so I go to the doctor. I'm like, doctor, I'm really dizzy a lot. And he's like, looking at me. And I got a shirt that says, Muay Thai, gym, And he's like, so how often do you get punched in the face? And I'm like, I usually dodge most of them, And so in my old age, I thought it would be fun to take up martial arts, and I've been doing it for like, I don't know, almost 3 years. But he blames it on that, and I'm like, that's not the problem. It's not that I got punched in the face. And so, but anyways. Yeah, it's so weird how it could be all those concussions. So anyway, but my point is that if I get a little bit off track, just bear with me a little bit. I've given my wife and Julie permission to like reel me back in. They're like, that's not what he meant to say, and they'll throw me a lifeline. So, all right. So I'm going to start off by focusing on the Source in Spokane. A couple things that you will not see is pictures of our children. We, by law, are not allowed to share pictures of our kids that are in operations, disclose the locations of where they live, those kind of things. So, but you guys are pretty much aware of the foster homes that we do. These are some of our staff. I don't know if the sound's going to work. Well, we got video, but no sound. These are just going to be some short little clips of a few of our people. We have far more females than males. And I think it's because of the nurturing nature of females. They apply more often to work for us. We have a handful of guys, but we definitely, I don't even know what our stats are on guys to girls, probably 70 to 30 maybe, 70% female, 30% male. My office was solid girls for a long time, but we had some new hires, and officially I have 3 more guys besides myself in the office, so getting a little bit more testosterone in there. Yeah. We currently have some youth homes. This one is the Hilltop Home. Those are our directors that are running it, but people move positions. We promoted a couple people. There's a high turnover rate for some reason because it's like, what you do at work today? Well, today I dodged a kick and then a kid bit me, and then they're like, why am I doing that for $25 an hour? So that's not really always happens, but they are definitely challenging kids. And I'll just say this, in all my years, I probably told this to you guys before, but it's important to say again, been working with you since I was 22 years old. I never got a fight with a kid I've never been attacked by a kid until I opened up a group home. And I've been in lots of scraps now, like I don't even know, probably 75, 80. I'm 75 and 0, just so you guys know that. Okay. That's important to know. Yeah. We have a girls' home that has 2 awesome young ladies in it. That one is run by those 3 ladies, Stacia, Chris, and Maddie. We have a Birch Meadows house. This house we actually built, me and a staff, and a few others came out and helped us, but we actually built it with our own hands. That is not the house. We have to, it's a, what would they call it? An FBI, what do they call those places, the secret houses, Yeah. Safe house. Thanks, Scott. Scott knows everything about this stuff. Yeah, so that's Julia, Daryl, and Josh run that house. River Bluff is now does our what's called enhanced out-of-home care, which I mentioned to you guys about taking care of the in-house out-of-home is basically high needs children, and then we have a 30-day respite care, which is a program where we're helping families with high needs children, and that is run by those 3 ladies. And this is just a snapshot of some of our people that are working for us. There's a few familiar faces you'll see. I've been able to reel in the old school Zion people. You guys would remember the Williamsons, Sage and Leah and Wade and Tanya. I got a few of their kids working for us now. My daughters are both working for us. We definitely show favoritism to people who love the Lord and are, people who are of our wheelhouse. Brandon DeWitt's in there, if you see Brandon DeWitt, if you guys know him. So, and then this is our management team. This is like a lot of the office staff and then the house managers. So that's additional to the people you just saw. So there's a lot of us now and a lot of people working to be able to make the things happen that we need to have happen. Let's see if this little video will play. Oh, that's, I think you guys know who those people are. Whoops. I'm bad at stuff sometimes. Let's see if I fix it. One more click. Okay, well, anyway, I'll skip that part. And then our next goal in Washington State is to open an adult developmental disability home. One of the things that has broken my heart over the course of our time having this is having our orphan program, foster care program, is kids can only stay in this program for a certain amount of time based off state regulations. At 18, they consider that they age out, but the state has made it a way where they can check themselves back into foster care until they're 21. But our service in our homes is very expensive, so they're always trying to find a lesser restrictive placement, a lesser expensive placement to move the kids to. The hardship has been when the kids turn 21 and no one has stepped up to, well, at 18, nobody stepped up to adopt them, so they've been in foster care their whole life. They don't have a family. Then they just age out, and there's some resources, but these children, they struggle to be able to succeed in life. They definitely, it's very, very hard for them. And so we wanted to be able to take some of our high needs kids. Like right now we have 2 kids that are going to be turning 18 this year, and our whole thought was, where are they going? Where are they gonna go? Well, they're gonna step out of our care, and then they hopefully will get picked up by another agency. And that's been bugging me for many years because we've had a couple kids that have gone through this process and they haven't done very well outside of our care. And so we want to keep them, have them be there for forever source kids, right? They'll be young adults. They're always going to need somebody to take care of them because of their disabilities. And so our goal is to open up an adult DDA home, and we're working with an anonymous, pretty awesome family that's going to help us launch this first house. And so I'm optimistic that that's going to be open here in 2024. And then I didn't have anything else to do, so I decided to open up the Source Idaho. So we are currently working with Idaho State. In our state, you guys ever cross the border and go into Idaho, and then you feel like weight just got dropped off of you? Do you ever feel that? Amen. You cross that border, and you're like, it's like the Braveheart, freedom! move, That's what it feels like to me, And I started immediately to start looking at properties. I'm like, I got to move, And I was actually really considering moving. And then the Lord says, why are you running, Chris? I'm like, why are you running from the battle? I'm like, okay, Lord, I'll listen, slow down a little bit, because I really wanted to leave Washington State. Okay, so the Source, Idaho. We've been meeting with the Source, the initial start, I drove down to Boise. Let me go back a little bit. I walked into Julie's office one day. She's like, hey, Chris, you won't believe it. Social workers from from Idaho, social workers from Idaho contacted us and asked us if we would be willing to open up some homes over in Idaho. So I contact them, we call up, and they're like, yeah, why don't you come down and check out our operation in Boise? So in Boise, they have this chaotic operation. They have 5 different houses that is run by, they don't have any training requirements. They're not licensed. They're not accredited. They don't have any, and the staff that they're hiring come from a temp agency. And they say to me, we want you to take over these 5 homes. I'm like, ah! Julie's like, you are not doing that, right? So we start thinking about it. We're like, okay, to take over, because they're basically saying, hey, we will give you everything we have. We will take care of all the housing. And I'm like, but you're not really giving me anything. You're giving me temp staff, which staffing is the biggest challenge, right? So I'm going to take five homes on. I need probably like 150 staff to do that. And I said, hey, I talked to the staff in Idaho, and I said, hey, we need to, or the social workers in Idaho, and I said, we need to start a little bit smaller. Let's have a little bit smaller beginning. So we decided our first home, since we're so close to the border, we're going to try to launch the next one between Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene area. So we're working through the licensing. We're really close to being done on that part. I just need to find a house, and that's been, it's a little bit more challenging. Hi, I would like to rent your home for 2 years, and I'm going to put a bunch of troubled kids in it, and they're going to trash it, And that's what the kind of the response we get sometimes. They think that. But the good thing for us is we have really good relationships with our current landlords. We rent a couple houses out here. We've been out here for a while, and they love us. They're like, they always fix everything that breaks. You go above and beyond. When it came time to replace their floor, the flooring needed to be replaced. We paid half of it, right? And that's not our fault that it was wore out. It was just wear and tear. But we do things like that to just make the landlords love us. And so we got to find a house in Idaho. And what I think we're going to be hopefully open by the summertime. We should have it open. And we'll be in Post Falls area, somewhere in there. Close enough for us to drive there quickly if needed. And then we've already hired a few staff to work that. We have a awesome guy that is going to be heading the Idaho program. This one I just want to put in here. You guys are like, Dominican Republic, what the heck is that? Well, so Charlie and we've been dreaming and talking for years about missions. So the Malawi piece, the getting out beyond the United States. And Charlie is actually married to a wonderful Dominican lady who worked for the Source for a couple years. And even after Charlie, stepped down from his position with the Source, started his own ministry, he and I we're just knit. We're knit at the heart, and we're serving together. I always say it often is he's my favorite person to travel overseas with, because I know he's fearless. And sometimes it gets a little crazy when you're overseas. I almost one time I accidentally ran over somebody's sticks, and they wanted me to get out of the car, and I'm pretty sure they wanted to mob me. And we have to get out of those kind of situations. And when you have good people with you, it's really not that difficult. So this past January, Carolina had spoken to my daughter Noelle, and took her down to the Dominican Republic. They were going to be down there for 3 weeks or so. And they invited us to come down and check it out. And I just felt from the Lord that this was like an answer to Charlie's and my dreaming and believing for God to move back in 2016, 2017 in this capacity. So Zara and I traveled down to Dominican Republic to see, are we going to launch a Source DR? What are we doing down there? And when we got down there, what we found is that Carolina's family, they love the Lord, and they're actively serving their community with very little resources that they have. And so I've turned into quite the little fundraising guy, and I can figure out ways to increase people's revenue because it's a lot easier to do missions if you have some money. I mean, dead serious. It's like, I want to put a well in, and then if you're broke, that well's not going in, right? It's just that simple. And so we went down there, met with the aunt. The aunt was already serving in her community. I believe there was 3 blind individuals that we met that they're serving her aunt, her mom, and one other lady. They routinely go into the houses, bring them supplies, take care of them. The school opened up their doors to us, and we did an assembly at the school, and it was all Jesus-based. I was able to preach the gospel. And then this summer, a Monarch Community Group, that's what Charlie runs, they're heading down there, and they are doing a summer camp with this school. So the doors are like wide open there for us to go down there and serve. And so what we decided to do was we raised some money to sponsor the monthly activities of putting together care packages for people. So they bring in care packages to the blind people, there's some orphans that are down there that they're taking care of, a mother who's taking in a bunch of children, and we're just providing tools, food, soap, things like that, clothing. So using some money to do that through Carolina and Charlie and Carolina's family. So we're working on that regard, and we'll see what God does with that, but it's been really cool. This is the classroom we visited, and this is Noel's playing a song on the ukulele for them. And this is one of the blind guys that we went and visited. He was super nice, so happy to, I can't say see us, that's so bad. Just slap me, somebody, that's terrible. He was so happy to be with us, so. You ever have those bad moments? That's like one of those like, dun-dun, yeah. All right, so then on to the Source Malawi. The Source Malawi it's just been growing a lot. And one of the cool parts another piece of vision, this year, you guys have somebody that's going with us. In a month and a half or so, Courtney has joined our team, and we're officially set to go. And so Liberty is going to have their first boots on the ground over there to get a full-on view of what you guys have been investing in since we started partnering together. This is our wall that was just built. That's the house. This is the Source land property. So if you drive through that wall, that is where our property is, and that is the Source house and the Source vehicle that we purchased last year. And then that's John, our Source director over in Malawi. Then this is the Ngoma family. If you want to try to learn a hard language, Chichewa is so hard to learn. It's just a tough language. What is your name? Zena Lana Ndani. About what? Go slow. Pangono. Slow. It's just like their words, their vocabulary, and they take like 4 words and they mix them into one long word, and it's just, my old mind can't learn it. It's hard. So the number 1 home is complete, and the family is living there, which is so awesome. So we're no longer renting one of the houses. And in this house we have solar panels. We have the wells right outside. The water is clean, right? Because in the villages, they tend to pack, especially in the long way, everything's packed right on top of each other. Pit toilets are there, and the well's there at the same place, right? So your pit toilet is from me to that wall, and then my well's in between there. And so I'm pulling water out of this well at the same time we're going to bathroom 15 feet away. The cross-contamination is terrible, and so the people are sick often. And so for us, we have a very good distance from our septic to our well, and it's really, really good. They have an indoor toilet. First time in their life to have an indoor toilet. They're like, we now have an Azungu toilet, which means a toilet that you sit down on versus a hole that you squat over, right? And so very good visual. So this is me and John walking the property, just talking about some of the layout. Our first home in Malawi is thriving thanks to our support. Now let's build a second home on the same land. We're trying to raise 30 grand to build the next home right there. And that'll be for the Kayusa family, which will be as our second foster family that takes care of some of our kids. So always, missionaries always ask for money. So this is them in the house with their new table. And then that's some of the kids in the Ngoma family. We have the twins down there. And then this is Mirka, Richard, and Deborah. And then Joab and Joel are the twins. And this is the Kayusa family that we're building the second house for. I want to blow you away with a figure. For $13,000, you can build a house that is fully functional and livable. 13 grand. Okay, and we're getting really close. So we need about 7,000 more. And the other thing is, like, on our trip, our airfare's already all paid, our lodging's all paid, and what I do is I just take the sources of income that we have and we just dump that towards it for this next trip. So that's our plan on this next one. Part of it is to build our second home and get the Cayusa family out there with the Ngoma family, so they're on the same land, pulling their resources together. We're launching a animal farm for them. They're going to raise goats and pigs to make profit. We really have had a desire to teach them self-sustainability, right? And this is where Liberty's really, with Courtney's there, we're going to be really working on that this year to figure out how to increase their productivity in farming, because they have the ancient methods where we have a tractor, they have a hoe, and they do it the exact same year after year. They use chemical fertilizer all the time. They don't ever compost because they free range their animals out of this necessity of they don't have feed to give them. And so we want to create a method for them to start doing composting and bring natural fertilizer in. And what will end up happening with this new farming method is they're going to be able to increase their crops drastically from what they currently do on the row method. And they're extremely rain dependent. If it doesn't rain, they don't eat. And so Courtney, on the trip, we're going to be connecting with some people over there that provide education on the sustainable farming method. Because one of the things that I've always said, even with our kids in America, the way to a person's heart and soul is through their stomach. You know, if I walk into a village and I say, man, the Lord loves you, and they're all, starving, and I have nothing to feed them in the natural, I think it makes the gospel harder for them to receive. They're like, I remember driving down the road, and in Malawi, you get in pockets, right? There's going to be a pocket that is pretty strong Christian. There'll be a pocket that is their spirit of animism, like the old ancient culture of Africa. And then you'll get into the Muslim quarters. The Muslims are fantastic at going in and drilling wells, bringing in some sustainability, providing food, and that's how they're growing the Islamic faith in Malawi, which is still quite a bit less than Christianity, but I think their missionaries are doing a better job. I mean, really they are. And so we want to be in a spot where we're providing for those tangible needs at the same time as delivering the gospel, because it causes their church to just thrive. So one of the cool things on one of the trips Charlie and I were on, he was feeling like, hey, I want to build a church, the second church. He's like, I feel like we should build a church for Pastor Cayusa because he's a pastor as well. Lucy does all the work with the kids pretty much. Mika's a pastor and for Holy Ghost Christian Church, and then works for the Source. So anyway, Charlie felt to build him a church, made a phone call. I didn't even take a couple hours, and somebody had donated all the money for us to build the church. So we went back on the next trip. Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me just cover the slides so I can get to the other slides. We've been supplying food to the villages, bringing in the gospel. This is our youth group meeting. I think this is that's Carolina. They will chase you for a very long time. Yeah, they're beautiful people. They're so fun. So just to go over a few of those pictures, the construction you were seeing was the church we were building in Chimbomoale, which is right by I would say maybe a block or two from the well you guys put in. And so we took that well, we planted a church. The church had 25, 30 members in the beginning. They didn't have a spot. Now we have a building. 150 people are attending the church now from the 25 that were there before we built the church. And so the resources, and it was so funny because the chief of the village, her husband, the chief is a female, and her husband, he saw me, and he runs up to me and he's like, Chris is my friend. Chris is my friend. In Chichewa, because he doesn't speak any English. And I'm like, what is he saying? He's, Chris is my friend. And so everywhere I would go, Chris, just waving at me. And then my daughter became a celebrity. Aubrey was a celebrity on the last trip. She's very outgoing. So I turned into not Chris any longer. I turned into Aubrey's dad. So, because she was far more popular than I was. So, see what's next. Okay, I can stop at that one. So we're making progress. We're moving. Things are happening. And it's kind of crazy. I was like feeling so, I don't know, kind of embarrassed just by not wanting to be, which I think I do pretty good at not doing that, but didn't want to brag, right? Like, oh my gosh, check out all we're doing. But there's a lot happening at the source. There's a lot happening. And I attribute that to just the willingness for us to say yes to what God's calling us to do. You know, the first yes started a long time ago originally started like in 2003. Hey, you're willing to quit your job and go into ministry? That sounds scary, but the answer is yes. Then it turned into, hey, you willing to quit your nice, comfortable ministry job and start a new ministry? In 2011, the answer was a scared yes, I'll do it. And then 2015, do you want to open up some homes? The answer, now I understand I'm struggling through all of these answers, right? It's not easy to say yes, and when it seems like you lose some of your comfort, your ability to provide for your family, and the unknown. But the biggest thing is, the unknown may seem scary, but the answer to the call of the Lord is always going to be a resounding yes. And that should be true for all of our lives, that whatever God's calling us to do, we don't want to be the people that are the, yes, Lord, I can hear you calling. I call them the but gods. Yes, Lord, I hear you making that call upon my life. But what about this? And we get distracted by the but. Oh, but God, who am I? I mean, even in the Bible, you would see Moses. But God, I'm not a man of articulate words, So, okay, here's Aaron. Aaron's going to help you speak. Okay, fine. Paul, hey, I got this thorn in my side. Every one of us has our limitations. But when God's calling us to something that is greater than us, one of the awesome things is that when we step out and say yes, he's faithful to meet us because it's his call. Our job is just to respond. And when we respond to that, things start happening. The first time I went to Malawi, I didn't want to go. I was already a missionary in America. But I responded yes, and the Lord radically changed my heart. And then the answer, and as I was growing in those things, I just started always saying yes. I'm like trying to always say yes to the Lord, making sure that I can hear his voice, because he doesn't have a loud sounding gong when he's talking to me. I don't know about you guys, but maybe some of you prophet people are a little better at hearing. But I hear a still small voice, and I have to focus my gaze in the direction of God to be able to hear him. And if I don't do that, I can't. So I have to get rid of distractions and things like that so I can clearly hear what the Lord is saying for us to do. And one of the things, like when I look at all that, one of the key words I want to focus in on, you guys were just talking about just some of when we first started, we were talking about the battle that we're in. We're in a constant battle. And the warfare in America, the warfare for the kingdom of God has increased crazy amount in the last little while. And the thing that I spoke on often is from Martin Mueller. It's like first they came, the speech about first they came for the gypsy, I wasn't a gypsy, so I didn't care. Then they came for the socialist, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't care. Then they came for the Jewish people, I wasn't a Jew, so what is it to me? Then they came for me, and then there's nobody left to fend for me. And so we, as the remnant of Christ, we are mandated from heaven to say yes to his call upon our life and activate and do something. Even if, and the other piece that goes along with that is don't despise a small beginning. I can remember how embarrassed I was. I took the lowest job when I first started the source because I was so broke. I didn't have any money. And Zion needed a bunch of metal. They were changing out their heater system, so I was pulling out all of the old water heaters. Well, those water heaters, they got aluminum and they got brass. I turned into a metal scrapper guy, right? When you go down to the metal scrapping yard, they won't even pay you that day because they want to verify you didn't steal the items before they give you the money. And so I was in this world of where a lot of people who sell the money for drugs or sell the metal for drugs is, and I'm like, this is so humiliating, Lord. And then I would just feel the Holy Spirit, don't despise a small beginning. And he's like, what I call you to be obedient and to be faithful to pursue you, Lord. and I'll do whatever it takes. And so it produced a lot of things in my character, even though it was painful at the time. On this next trip to Malawi, I'm going to jump back onto that. Part of Courtney has a twofold mission. One, he's scouting the land for liberty. What's that going to look like for potential trips for you guys in the future? He'll be looking at some of those pieces. We're going to do that sustainable farming. I have it in my heart and mind to look at developing a private school for our kiddos. The public school systems, one teacher, 80 kids, and they are crazy. So their crowd control methods are rudimentary. It's the older sixth grader. He's given a bamboo rod, and he's in charge of the third and younger. And kid you not, they will smack these kids with these little sticks, and the kids are terrified. So like I was holding one of them, and I just turned to the kid, and immediately the little kid's like, ah, covering up, and I'm like, I'm not going to walk around with this stick because they're expecting me to smack them because they're out of line. But that's how they would control the kids. And when you're trying to provide education for kids in that type of environment, it's very, very difficult. The other challenge that they have for school is primary school is free up to 8th grade, but after 8th grade, the families are required to pay. You live on $50 a month, if that, $50 a month, and now you have school fees, and you have 4 kids. Very, very hard for them to do. People in the village, they don't even make any money. They are agriculturally based, they barter and trade, and they only eat if they have a crop or they go hungry. And so our goal is to get this private school going. We're going to do our village outreach like usual. Well, I won't say like usual because we don't have enough time, but we're going to visit a few different villages, bring in some supplies, preach the gospel. And our Malawian brothers and sisters, I want to say that the money that you guys invest every month, they're being good stewards of the money. Because I was very, very clear with them. I'm like, when we are bad stewards, the resources will dry up. The Lord's not going to honor us if we don't do a good job. And so they were doing a really good job. They're doing financial reporting. Charlie has been sponsoring evangelism in the Chimbo village to help build the church, get more people attending, converting more people to Christianity. And so there's two young men that are evangelists that Monarch is sponsoring. And so, and then we're feeding kids, another good effective tool, working through their stomach to reach their heart. And so we're doing that as well. And they're just doing a good job. The Malawians are stewarding it very, very well. And so I'm excited for this next trip. And then it's going to be, there's 6 of us going. My daughter Noelle's going with me. That'll be her 3rd trip. We got Courtney going, and then the Mortons, Ken and Naphtali, and their daughter Anne-Marie. So this little sticker thing you see here is, this is a little fundraiser to help us raise the rest of the money for the house. We're, we'll give you guys a present if you buy online. I think right now we're only set up for PayPal, but you can text me or just give me a message if you want a sweatshirt or something like that to help fund our work in Malawi. It's pretty crazy when you can build a home for 13 grand. And just know that anything you guys donate, we'll dump it straight to it. I decided I wasn't going to pay my administrators anymore. And so, and they love working for free. So, yeah. And so there's one last thing I want to share with you guys that's coming up. I think it's, okay, I'll get back to that one in a second. All right. This is kind of I'll go fast on this one. Get in the fight. And one of the things I can see in this church is you guys are fighters. And I like that a lot, So what month was that, guys? October? November. Okay, so in November, Julie and Sean, Zara and I, we traveled down to Florida. We signed up to take a course on anti-human trafficking because we're running into, it's been there prevalent for a long time, but kids in foster care, the stat is 60% of the children that are trafficked are from foster care. Because in foster care, if a child runs away in Washington State, I've covered this law with you guys before, if they run away at 12 years old in Washington State, the cops can't pick them up. They are free to do whatever they want and make their own decisions, and they get trafficked and exploited easy. Charlie and I have already done our first mission to Yakima to go find a child that had disappeared from care, and we've already been out there working with people who are top-level CIA operatives. It's so strange that I'm in this world now. I'm like, what in the world am I doing talking to this? You guys know who General Michael Flynn is? Yeah. He's coming to town. I was on the phone with his sister for 40 minutes, and And I'm sitting there, I'm like, do you guys know that I got a degree in automotive technology? You know? And so, but I'm talking to these high-level people, right? And so when Charlie and I are on this mission to go find this girl in Yakima, this CIA operative guy who runs ARC, the Association for Recovery of Children, he does high-level special operations overseas to rescue American children and get them back into care. Kids who are trafficked or stolen by a parent and moved to Iran, he gets his boots on the ground. They've rescued people out of Libya, just a 6-year-old kid out of Libya. The jungles of the Amazon rainforest, go in there and they find children, get them out. It's just crazy. And so he's on the phone with me, and Charlie and I are trying to figure out, okay, we're blanking this neighborhood. It's total meth world. And we've got it pinpointed down where we think our girl is. She's in this trap house, basically, in a foster or a apartment complex. And then we're like, every time we try to branch out in the city of Yakima, we're like always drawn back to the same apartment complex. Well, it turns out that's where she was. And so anyway, all that to say, she came back into care. She's back in Spokane. Still has a lot of challenges, but she's in Spokane area. And we're still working, but we got to be in the fight. And so April 26th, 27th, at On Fire Ministries. On the 25th, General Michael Flynn's going to be up here, and he's doing a video at Matt Shea's church about a documentary about his life, I think it is. On the 26th and 27th is an event called The Summit, and it's really designed to bring awareness to human trafficking and America's future. What's America's future? It's our children, right? And so it's really all about our kids, the assault that is on our children right now to destroy the next generation. And so I strongly encourage you guys to come to this event. It's going to be Friday night and Saturday all day. Laura Logan's going to be here, one of the speakers. There's going to be a big panel of people that are really well-versed in this line of work. And so, but they're coming because we made a connection down there in Florida, and we had the opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on in Spokane with Bazel Boz and Lisa McDonald, who are the top guys that run, or guy and girl that run it, and these people are, Boz was a CIA operative for his whole career, and he basically, his story is crazy cool because he's over in Somalia trying to overthrow the dysfunctional government, right? So he has Marines with him, special operations guy, and they're working on overthrowing the Somali government. This is in his book. And he's out there on the streets of Somalia, and he comes across these two lighter-skinned Somalis that look totally out of place. So Somalians are fairly dark complexion, and there are these two girls that don't look like they fit. They're more like African Americans, in their skin complexion. And so he's like, sees them, but he's on an operation, right? He's working for the U.S. government, and he goes back to their base, and they're talking to all the special ops guys. He goes, what did you guys think when you saw those girls? And they're like, that doesn't look right. We got to do something about it. So he gathers up some of his Marine recon guys. These are high-level, they're killers. They're basically warriors. So they go out, they do this operation to find these two girls. They find them, pinpoint them, they're being trafficked. They rescue them out of that situation. They find their mom at a refugee camp and reunite the family together. And then what he learned at that moment, he's like, the Lord has called me to something bigger than overthrowing small governments. And so that totally caused a shift in his heart. He's married to a lady who is just a radical. This lady walks the streets of Las Vegas on the strip joints and the prostitution rings areas and rescues people all the time. And they're focused on rescuing kids that are in those situations of being trafficked. They're going to be up here too, and then they're going to come up for this conference, but a couple months later they're going to have a longer training that's 5 days long. That's the training that we attended down in Florida, just to really how to educate us as normal day citizens, to bring awareness of recognizing when kids are in danger, when we spot them on the street. Typically we just walk past, but I guarantee you all walked past kids who are being trafficked many, many times. Go downtown and just look around, and when you see a kid, why? Just ask yourself, why is that young person down here? And who is with them? And so that training will bring better awareness and provide us some skills. And what was awesome, we went to that training, and I immediately put it into action when I came back, of trying to rescue this girl. And so that's really what's happening at this point in time. There's a lot going on. We got our expansion here in Washington State. We're moving to Idaho, expanding there. We're working in the two countries now, Malawi and Dominican Republic. And then now and then we have our piece on anti-human trafficking for children specifically. So that's a lot of stuff, and it takes a lot of people to help us. And if you guys are interested, a couple ways you can help. Your time. If you wanted to work for us, you could always come work for us. I'll teach you how to dodge punches. It's not that hard. So, yeah, and that's why I took martial arts, right? Because I was just sick of getting beat up. No, I'm kidding about that. So, but yeah, definitely plan to attend the summit. And really what they would say is get in the fight, And one of the things that's quoted by General Michael Flynn, he's quoted this so many times because I've been to a couple of the Reawaken America rallies, and he says, local action makes national impact. So when you're looking at what to do, I'm not the General Michael Flynn, right? So what's my sphere of influence? Well, he's saying, do you live somewhere locally? Will you take some action locally? You'll make an impact. Because if we can start righting some of those wrongs, we will make an impact, right? And so, so please plan to attend that. Especially like the 25th. It starts the 25th, so it's going to be 25th, 26th, 27th. 25th will be the shortest day. There's also going to be a breakfast. I checked their website. We'll get more information to you guys. They don't have their brochure quite done yet. I was talking with Lisa McDonald right before I came because they were supposed to have it done on Friday, but they were trying to finalize some of the guest speakers that are coming. And so I'll get it to Jay and Jamie as soon as it's out, and then we can distribute it from there.
I just wanted to say too, if you guys can't make it to all 3 days, you can go to just individual speakers. It's kind of like a rapid fire where they're going to line them up. So even if you can't say, hey, I'm going to be here the 25th to the 27th, it's whatever you guys can get in and just kind of get an idea of what's going on and how they're combating some of that is going to be pretty fantastic. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is a whole weekend event is a long commitment. I'm going to get as many staff as I can there, but it's and when the flyer's out and then they have the schedule, you can pick and choose which ones you feel like would be most relevant for you. So there's just a few small ways we can get involved, and it's really cool to see what God's doing and how He will work through a heart that says yes. That's really the biggest thing, and I'm just baffled by it. I'm like, all right. And so I always want to just be that person that, despite the scariness, right? Because I had this thought in my mind the other day when I was driving in my car. I'm like, Julie and Xavier are pretty much running the show. You can just coast now. And I was talking to the Lord, and He's like, what'd you just think? Wait, good thing you didn't say that out loud, son. Yeah, and then so that thought was fleeting very quickly. And every week I meet with a couple guys. Charlie's one of the guys I meet with every week. And I was meeting with another guy named Bill. And Bill, he always gets up in my business, and why did you do that? And what were you thinking when you said this? And he meets with all my staff, and so they get all the dirt on me, right? And so he meets with all my staff, and then he comes and talks to me. He's an awesome man. But I told him, I said, I had this thought. He goes, I've had that thought before of just trying to coast, But I'm not called to coast, right? I'm called to run my race with perseverance and run to win. And I honestly don't believe in retirement, believe it or not. Now I can retire from working for a Vista or I retire from turning wrenches, but there's no call to retire from working for the kingdom of God. We run that race with perseverance and we run to win. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Get involved, stay in the fight, and your local action will make national impact. Quote from Michael Flynn. So thank you.
Wow, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Source. America's worth fighting for. America's worth fighting for. We believe that America's call and destiny is to take the gospel to the nations and to fund missions, and so we put our wallet where our mouth is. And as you can see, Chris is like us. He's involved in the same things that we are. So it's an honor to support him. You can do that whenever you want on our website or on your offering envelope. Just put the Source Malawi, and we'll get money there. If you want to give to the Source Dominican Republic, you have to probably contact Chris or Charlie or Julie or somebody that knows. But you can do that as well. I'm thinking too, we're asking God, we want a building structure. And so now, as I'm fasting and praying, Lord, we built building structures in Malawi, at least helped, and we're building more. Then Lord, give us our building. But it'd be pretty hypocritical to say, Lord, give us a building. We're not building structures in third world countries. Do not neglect the weightier matters of the law, mercy, justice, and faith. And so that's my challenge this morning. I didn't know that my message for the offering was going to be a message to me. Do not neglect the weightier matters of the law. And so we aren't. We're excited about the Source Malawi because every penny we give goes right to the people. There's no overhead with the Source. And I'm not pointing fingers at any organization that needs, donations to help with overhead. But what I'm saying is it's a cool opportunity for us to be involved with the Source Malawi, which is not as much like the Source Hawaii as I probably thought. Thank you. Be sure to talk to the team before they go. Father, bless our week. Bless what you're doing in this church. Bless what you're doing in your church throughout the world. May we be fully abandoned to you. May we act locally and have a national impact. May we stand up, show up, and speak up, and let you do the rest. Through Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. Just one more thought. Talked about Gideon. He stood up, showed up, spoke up, and God did. The miracles were waiting for him. That's what I kept hearing this morning. In all these different areas, from human trafficking to Malawi to all that, you just stand up, show up, and speak up, and the miracles are waiting for you. Amen. Have a great week.